Okay, you guys, I couldn't think of anything quippy and funny to say as an intro to this movie review, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Last night and today, Arturo and I went to see The Kingsman. We didn't... Okay, so what happened is... What's today? What is today? This is Wednesday Today the 22nd? Yeah, today's the 22nd, geez, this week. We went to go see it last night on the 21st. And we were about 30 minutes to 35 minutes away from the ending, and we got a text message from my daughter that Scooter had another seizure. And so when that happened, I knew that meant it was time to put him to sleep. And so we left the movie theater, and we decided we would go back the next day to see the movie, because I already had plans to take Aurelia and a friend out to see Spider-Man, and we kind of wanted to just get our brains off of the sadness that we've been feeling. So we went back to see The Kingsman. We sat through all the way to the beginning, and then finally, got to the part that where we'd had to walk out. And something that I was thinking again while watching this film the second time around is how good it actually was. Before we went to see it last night or yesterday afternoon, I had accidentally seen the Rotten Tomatoes score. It was in the 40s. I haven't seen the second movie of this yet, but the Rotten Tomatoes score was in the mid 40s. I was like, oh wow, okay. So I went into this, wondering, but not having my hopes up or anything. I mean, I enjoyed the first movie, but didn't know anything about the second movie, but I knew that this was a prequel. And so this film, it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. There is a mid-credits scene, so stick around for that if you're interested to check it out. It kind of builds a little bit more on the plot from this movie. This film had a surprising amount of heart to it, emotional depth, character depth, and it was quite sad in different parts. And maybe it's just a lot of things make me sad right now, and it doesn't take much. Obviously, obviously, I was trying to say honestly, it doesn't take much. A freaking commercial can make me feel like I want to cry, but this movie, it went to places that I wasn't expecting. There are some things in here that are predictable. Like, let's say there's a fight going on and someone's about ready to be killed by the bad guy, and then at the last moment, someone shoots him or comes in and saves him. That sort of stuff. But there was other stuff in here that happened that I did not expect, and it shocked the hell out of me when it happened. And yet at the same time, it didn't shock me in a bad way. I mean, it shocked me, and I'm like, oh, dang, that's terrible. But it made sense that this particular event events happened in the way that they did. So basically, the premise of this story is Ralph Fiennes is like a duke or something, and in the beginning he goes, I think he's in some place in Africa, maybe. And something terrible happens. His son is just a little boy. Something terrible happens, and it affects the relationship between him and his young son for like the rest of his life, because he's very protective. He doesn't want his son to see war. He tries to protect him, and so consequently, this boy, he's gotten quite resentful of the fact that he's been so protected. He's a young man. He wants to get out and do stuff, and the war's getting ready to happen, and he wants to join the war. And he's got this very idealized perception of what it means to go fight for your country, but at the same time, once he sort of gets involved in that situation, he comes around to realize in his brain what his father was trying to protect him from. And so that was a really interesting character arc / development sort of thing that happened. And also with Ralph Fiennes' character, he had character development in the way his relationship with his son changed over time and the different evolutions his character went through in this film. And it was just, I thought it was very well done. There were interesting historical aspects that were built upon for this movie. Yes, they do take some quite creative liberties with history, but a lot of the historical stuff that they talk about in there is pretty accurate. So that's what made it more interesting, or let's say that's what made it pretty interesting to watch this, how they wove real life events in with the story of how the Kingsman secret spy agency came to be. So this is, as you know already by the trailers, this is the evolution. This is how it gets started. And I thought it was really good, as I've said, if you haven't picked up on that already. But it was so much better than I expected it was going to be, honestly. I really liked the heart in this film, the dialogue in this film, the murky gray area that's touched on when it comes to things like war and fighting and dying and the senselessness of it all. In a lot of ways, this is an anti-war film. It doesn't glorify war, yet at the same time, you see all these different nuanced things that are happening. And it doesn't really glorify violence, but yet at the same time, you understand why there are moments where violence has to happen with certain people and in certain situations. And there were so many layers of depth to this. I really appreciated how it was done, and quite honestly, I feel like this is something that I could add to my collection. We have I think the first two. We have 1 and 2 on digital. I don't have them in physical copy, but anyway, the action scenes in here were very well done. There were sometimes your typical, guy ducking right before he should duck because it's obvious in this particular fight scene, he's not supposed to get hit then. So, you can tell sometimes that choreography is going on. But for the most part, it was carried off very well. There's a fight that takes place with Rasputin that's equal parts interesting and complex and yet funny at the same time, because the guy who plays Rasputin did an absolutely hilarious and amazing job. There were some double entendre or double meaning sort of things that were happening with Rasputin and Ralph Fiennes' character. And it was just like, it was cringy, but it was supposed to be, because it was like, okay, I don't want that imagery in my brain. But anyway, you'll know it when you get to it. And it was it was really good. And I did appreciate that. Oh, you want to get down, Chibi? Oh, I almost said Scooter. God. Okay. I did appreciate that it went to places that I didn't expect, and also gave us a solid story. I didn't feel like, like sometimes when people hear the phrase that something is anti-war, they take that to mean that you're I don't know, like trying to promote a certain narrative that means you think that the bad guys should just be able to do what they want. That's not really the case. I mean, certainly there are some wars that have happened that, if it weren't for the fact that people did stand up and resist against certain things, the situation would have ended up being very, very, very bad. Yet at the same time, it makes you so frustrated to see the damage that people do to each other, and the just crazy amount of killing and absolute disrespect for human life, and it's freaking depressing. But it doesn't take much to make me feel depressed about stuff like that, because this movie dealt a lot with death, and that's been on my mind a lot. And so obviously it's I don't know, I saw this movie described as depressing and overly long or something like that. You could tell that it was longish. It's not as long as Spider-Man. I felt like Spider-Man flowed in a little bit of Spider-Man flowed in a way that didn't make you think about how long things were going on. The Kingsman, I felt like it was long, but it wasn't like in the sense that I was impatient or I felt bored or I wanted it to hurry up. It was because there was so much stuff that was happening that I remember the first two, well, yes, last night and today, I would look at my watch and I'm like, oh man, we're only 45 minutes into it. Wow, it feels like we've been an hour plus. But just because there was so much that was going on and so much of a buildup, there's not tons of action in this movie. There's a lot of laying down of the plot and all the intricacies involved, the politics, and we got an interesting little history lessons about the Kaiser of Germany, the Tsar of Russia, and the King of England. And if I knew this way back when in school, I certainly forgot about it, but did not realize that these three men were cousins. They were grandsons of Queen Victoria. I was like, oh, that's an interesting history lesson. And at first, Arturo was like, I don't know that I believe that, but I looked it up. Yep, they were. But I'm sure if I fact check a lot of this, the stuff in here, I will find that, obviously a ton of historical things in here were messed around with. Clearly, the way Rasputin was handled was messed around with. It wasn't, I don't want to say, but the way he died was obviously different than how it happened. I'm talking about the physical manner of death. I'm not talking about, obviously, the way the story played out, because it's not the same as, clearly it's not. But his physical manner of death was a little different. What else? They had other situations that I knew weren't accurate, but they brought in all these different interesting historical figures, like the Duke and Duchess, or Archduke and Duchess Ferdinand of Austria, if I'm saying that right. And they also brought in people like Lenin and Mata Hari, and who else? Oh, God, scared me to death. Jeez. Who were some other people?
The Tsar.
Yeah, I mentioned the Tsar already. I was doing my Here Comes Arturo.
Lenin.
Yeah, I mentioned Lenin already.
Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson. Different historical figures that were woven into this. Now, I don't know the length of time that this movie takes place in, but it's obviously a span of a few years, because the characters, they start off, she wanted down.
I don't know, I feel kind of bad for her.
She wanted to get out of my lap, so I let her down.
I kind of have this gut feeling about her soul.
Poor Chibi. You sad, Chibi? We're all sad. I don't think she wants me to hold her, though. Not right now. Well, okay, so...
There is a specific historical character that shows up mid-credits.
Yeah, but I'm not going to mention that. So, when did the war start?
14.
Okay, so the World War I started in 2014. The very beginning...
2014?
Oh my gosh, bless it. My brain's not here. 1914, holy cow. The movie starts off in 1902, and then after that opening stuff that happens, then it jumps forward 12 years to 1914. And then
Archduke Ferdinand.
I mentioned Archduke Ferdinand.
And the guy that killed him.
Yeah, the guy that killed him. But as far as how long, okay, when did the U.S. enter the war?
1917.
Okay, so the time span, see, she didn't want me to hold her. The time span of this movie, basically, the bulk of it takes place from 1914 to, you said 1917?
I'm assuming that's where, yeah.
Yeah, because that's sort of the whole...
The only downside is that I thought we got involved before the Russian Revolution. So that's...
Yeah, when was the Russian Revolution?
It was in October.
Okay, yeah, so Arturo's quibbling with the historical stuff.
I mean, I could be
because
wrong,
the Russian Revolution is also portrayed in here. And then basically the plot of this story revolves around how they're trying to get the war dealt with, and the different countries that they're trying to get involved in the war to help basically save the world, save England, whatever. And so the U.S. is a holdout. And so the U.S. entered the war in 1917. So the bulk of this movie takes place over the course. Jeez. The bulk of this movie takes place over the course of 3 years, basically. Let's just say that. So, a lot of time has passed, but at the same time, the way the events are laid out, it does not feel like things are rushed or compressed. Obviously, when you get to the final end, you're reaching the climax. There's, things pick up then because there's a lot more action that's going on. I did have a quibble. There was a fight scene that happened. I felt like it could have been handled a little bit better, and someone gets shot. It's a non-lethal wound, and then the fight scene proceeds between two other characters, and it lasts for, I don't know, 5+ minutes, perhaps. And the person that got the non-lethal wound, nothing, like, you never saw them again until after the fight was over. And I'm like, why? They should have shown at least this person trying to do something to enter the fight again, because the way they edited that particular thing, that particular part of the movie, I thought that they were going to come in and do something and enter the fight again. And yet there was just nothing of this character until the fight scene was over. And that was probably one of my main quibbles with a portion of this movie. But for the most part, I just feel like it was extremely well done. And it just made me appreciate even more life in general, and how though there is a lot of honor placed on people going to war and fighting and dying and honoring what they have sacrificed, doesn't necessarily mean you are glorifying war. But because you're not glorifying war, it also doesn't mean that you are dishonoring the sacrifices of those who have given their lives, whether willingly or unwillingly. It's just basically, war is absolute hell. And the most we can try to avoid crap like that, the better, because it just really, it bothers me so much. Like, the older I get, the more it bothers me that this stuff is happening. And it's the regular old people that are running off to fight the battles of these politicians. They're the ones just kind of sending people off to go fight and die. And it just, I know it's a part of. World
War I's going to aggravate you. There was a lot of.
I know there was, so it was, you know, this is a thing with humans. This is the way people are. I get it. It's not going to change. We're always going to be driven in this particular way. But it just, it troubles me so much that it's people that aren't even directly involved in something like that. They are the ones that pay the ultimate price. And it just sucks, y'all. It just sucks. And it makes me really sad, and it doesn't take much to make me sad nowadays anyway. Sorry, I knew there was something that I was going to end up forgetting to mention, and that is that both times that I watched this movie, there was a scene in there that was just chilling in its, I don't know, intensity or strangeness. And that involved a part in the story where the two forces, the German forces and the Allied forces, meet up on the battlefield in the middle of the night, and they both communicate with each other that they know that they can't shoot at each other, because if they do that, then they will all get shot at from both sides and they'll all end up getting killed. So they have this silent communication with each other that they're going to basically have a quiet fight. And they put down their guns, they pull out their knives, and they proceed to very quietly stalk towards each other and then engage in life or death fighting. And it was just it was so eerie, and it was just creepy, and it was sickening to watch them have this understanding of their situation and realize the position they were in, and they were still going to, you know, it was like, let's be quiet while we kill each other so both of our sides don't end up killing us all in the firefight. It was just, I cannot even explain adequately how absolutely crazy that was. It was such an effective scene, though. I mean, it really hit home the atrocity and brutality and just horrific nature of warfare and the violence that people inflict on each other. Very, very sad, actually. So anyway, that was it. I just wanted to mention that before I forgot after I started editing the video. Okay, back to the review. Okay, well, I think I've rambled on and on enough. I talked more about this than I intended to, but I really enjoyed this. Like I said, that's probably about the 50th time I've said that, and I said it a lot. And I hope that this gets a decent amount of revenue this particular weekend. I know that it's going to be overshadowed, obviously, by Spider-Man because that movie is still like selling out like crazy. But this film also had a very well-attended time slot, and other time slots were selling out. So hopefully it'll do really well, and I hope that people enjoy it, and I don't know, maybe I'm completely off base with the way I think about it compared to maybe how other people think about it, but I think I'm raving about it so much because I did not expect it to have the gut punch of emotion that it ended up having, and I really respected the hell out of how this was done. So, yeah, okay. I think that's it. I'm going to wrap this up for now, you guys. Adios.